All right, welcome to a factory tour of 115 hours in AngelBob Factorio. By that I mean Factorio with the Angel's mod set and Bob's mod set added in. As you can see, there's quite a bit of additional stuff you wouldn't see in base Factorio. Angel adds a lot of changes to the way that your initial ores are processed, as well as the way that a lot of your other initial products are made. Bob's adds a lot as well, including most notably a lot of additional tiers of equipment that you can build with all those fancy new materials. A lot of different logistics options, a lot of different warfare options as well. So let's take a look, starting from the starter base, and hopefully you'll pick up a few things along the way. If it looks a little bit complex at any point, keep in mind that a lot of the things from Angels are pretty optional things, and there's usually a simpler way to do different things. For example, if you take a quick look at this, this is my initial wood production setup. It basically consists of 4 buildings, but as you'll see later on, things can get a lot more complex if you feel the need to. One of the simpler examples of that is the coal power plant that is still running here. I could probably take that offline at this point, but why bother? Initially I was running coal straight into the boilers. However, it took me way too long to realize that crushing the coal, which is a very simple process, basically cuts the pollution that you're outputting in half for the same amount of power output, and no loss in resource efficiency. So I struggled for a bit with biter problems before I figured that out, and things have gotten significantly better as I moved to more electric run equipment, and eventually, as you'll see, a gas-fired power plant. This is the initial research lab setup, which is no longer operational as I need more science types. Science production here for the yellow and red science packs are still operational. We started here on this resource patch, but as that is mostly depleted, we're now importing most of the iron here, and these furnace stacks are basically defunct here. We do have a little bit of a mall down here that was used for some interim products. That's not right. Oh well. We have an example of somewhat what Angel's more advanced metal processes look like. We're bringing in tin ore, and we are firing that into ingots, and then melting down those ingots and casting them into plates, or casting them into tinned wire using copper wire and putting a tin coating on it. So let's take a look down here. This is where a lot of our importing is done to keep this initial base still running. We're importing some raw ores, and we're also importing finished iron and copper plates from a later facility that we'll take a look at. One of the things I didn't mention back at the starter base there is you probably noticed there's a lot of pipes going around, and that was steam pipes feeding steam assemblers and steam inserters. And here we also have steam mining drills. Steam is an interim basically level of equipment between burner equipment and electrical equipment that was added by That's added by Bob's, actually. It's a very, very nice, very fun thing to work with. I don't think it scales particularly well past the early electrical equipment, because although its efficiency and speed continues to increase with higher steam temperatures that you can get at higher tech levels, you start to run into more and more issues just with the packaging and trying to route all the steam around as you have to bring in, especially as you have to bring in more and more different materials to the assemblers. This is an example of kicking a problem down the road rather than directly dealing with it. As we crush these initial ores, we also get a lot of just waste rock byproducts. Here, we're sending some of it back to the main base because we have some other uses for it. But most of the excess we're just storing here, and some of it we're converting into we're making into stone bricks, which have their own uses. But mostly this is just to get it out of the way. And we are about 40% full across this storage area. Take a quick tour down to the southern defensive line, because it has been a fairly continual fight with the bugs. So we have this set up here with various little outposts. I already fixed this up. But we mostly pushed the bugs back, and things have been fairly quiet as we're in a bit of a lull for research here. We've got 5 levels of research, and I have the equipment to start producing 2 more science types. And once production for that gets online, we'll probably start producing a heck of a lot more pollution. Spoilers for the end there. I hope that facility is still running when I get there, because it has had some teething problems. I just brought it online today. We're going to go over and take a look at Tier 3 refining, or Tier 3 refining. This is required in order to get aluminum, one of the Tier 3 materials. Basically, you use the same ore types throughout the game, but as you use more and more advanced refining processes, you can get better and better materials out of that. So here's our ore patch. We're crushing some of that and directly sorting it in order to get just basic iron and copper. However, we are also bringing some up here, and we are hydro refining it. So we are washing it in order to further refine it before we sort it, and then we're able to get some higher quality materials out of it, such as aluminum in the case of this ore. We wind up with aluminum and zinc, where again we're just storing the zinc right now because this is kind of a piecemeal thing. And luckily we are just about at the point where this facility will become redundant, with the exception of the concrete production here, which is not working anyway for some reason. It worked up until I started this video, and I must have changed something recently that wound up destroying it. Here's where we're producing clay bricks. This is all produced by filtering seafloor water, so we're sucking up mud, and we are washing it to get lots of useful things. We've got sand that we're using to make these bricks. We've got limestone that's being pulled out of that. We're also getting clay, and we're also getting mud, which has its own uses as well. So there's our brick production, and these are a couple of examples of using that waste rock. So we're turning the waste rock into concrete, and we're also using the waste rock and we're injecting acid into it, turning it into a rock slurry, and then filtering that in order to get out some of the residual minerals. So we're getting a little bit of extra iron and copper back from that. We've got a little bit of coal refining to coke and carbon. Can't remember why, must be used for some process in here. And one thing I didn't mention about the washing process is it produces nasty byproducts of acidic wastewater, which initially seems like a pain in the ass, but is actually very, very useful later on because acids are wonderful things. It can be used for all sorts of advanced processes. Right here, we're mostly treating it. It's fluoric wastewater, so we have fluorite or byproducts, which again we're just storing here, but we're making a lot better use of most of our byproducts here than we are at those earlier facilities. Moving on, I'm going to stop briefly back at the starter base again to see what we're using some of this stuff for. Here is the current science setup where we have 5 science types going in. That's also where we're importing from our other facilities. We're importing sulfur, steel, iron, copper, and we're also importing the military science, and we're also bringing along some catalysts. Why aren't the catalysts unloading? I don't care. Oh, maybe actually we're bringing the catalysts up north. That's we're not importing catalysts. We're importing empty catalyst frames, and we're shipping the catalysts up north to do something else with. Here we've got purple science production, so we're just taking all sorts of those nice raw products, mostly just steel and iron and basic circuit boards, and we are making electric furnaces, chemical plants, and assemblers, and turning those into the purple science packs. This is our initial basically tier 1 and tier 2 electronic boards. So these two together I'd say are the rough equivalent of green circuit boards in the base game. We're producing just basic wooden circuit boards for this very initial stage, for these initial stages, and then we move on up here to the tier 3 production. We are using phenolic boards, and these, as they kind of appear, are kind of the equivalent of red circuit boards, and it uses a similar process where we've got ferric chloride being produced in order to make those. And over here we have tier 4 circuits, again roughly equivalent to blue circuits, and there's a bunch of other little interim steps required here. We've got electronic components, we've got transistors, we've got integrated electronics for the blue circuits. Each stage adds a couple of new resources. We've got silvered wire, tinned wire, silicon wafers are being produced here. That requires monosilicon, which is just another little refining process on silicon. Over here we've got robot production that's just done by hand, mostly carting some of these final components around because we don't need very many of them. We have got silicon nitride being produced here just so we can produce some ceramics. Fiberglass production, that's required for the tier 4 circuits. And we've got concrete and reinforced concrete bricks being produced here. This area here is where the brown resource you saw earlier is being refined. Again, this is going through a tier 3 process so that we can get some more advanced materials out of that. Specifically here we're getting silver and we're also getting nickel, although we're not using a lot of the nickel right now. The nickel is very useful as an alloying material. But because this was only ever intended to be a temporary setup, it's just being stored for now. And we're about 60-70% stored on that. So eventually this will cease operation. But as you'll see later, we should have a long-term solution for that soon. Last thing before we move on, I showed you forestry, which was 4 buildings, and this is a more advanced version of that, where we have a whole bunch of greenhouses basically. We are making growing medium from some of the mud that we're sucking off the ocean floor, mixing it with some compost, sticking a seed in it, and then growing it here, harvesting it for wood and resin, and all that good stuff. One of the neat things about this is that they actually consume pollution rather than producing it. So as you'll see on the pollution map, they're not running right now, but normally you see an empty green patch here, kind of like the forest, where they are sucking up pollution. And that's actually allowed this forest here, despite being kind of in the middle of my pollution cloud, to largely stay somewhat healthy, although it is of course starting to die around the edges. Let's see, which car is my car? Oh, and this is what do we call this? This is algae farm we have going here, where we use some of the byproducts from the algae and also some of the byproducts of the forestry. By byproducts I just mean the wood. Converting those into cellulose fibers, making some delicious slurries, and turning that into paper, and also turning that into resin. And paper and resin are used to make phenolic boards. A lot of these processes require some interim things to be made here. So we're making ammonia actually from some of these other this other type of algae farm, which is then used to help make the resin here. Now let's take a look at what the oil refining looks like. Not too much different from the base game at this point. Although we've got 2 kind of basic types of petrochemical that are the raw resources here. We've got multi-phase oil, liquid form, and then we've got natural gas, gaseous form. Bring both of them in here, crack them into their constituent parts, and then refine them. Here's gas refining, here's the oil refining. Refine the oil into fuel oil, base mineral oil, and naphtha. And the gas we crack into methane, ethane, and butane. We burn any of the excess here, but we use, in particular, a lot of the natural gas mixed with some of the naphtha to produce ethylene, which we produce our plastic from. Plastic pipes are big fan of plastic pipe, PVC all the way. Screw ductile iron. And let's see what else we got. We're producing lubricant here. We're also producing liquid fuel and then packaging that into solid fuel here. The lubricant we are packing up on a train and sending out east to one of our larger facilities. Yes, and the fuel, we're making enriched fuel from that, and that is coming down here, and this is actually the main power production for all the operations here. And we have some of our old coal facilities that are still running, but the majority of our power comes from here because it's less than half the pollution output of an equivalent coal power plant. We've got these furnaces where the enriched fuel is burned, and then that heat is piped over here to these boilers, which runs these steam engines. I can't wait to do nuclear power with the AngelBob mod, because that looks super interesting. But for now, this meets all of our power needs. We do have some solar panels here. I just plopped these down to get them out of my inventory when I was having inventory problems. But I am producing some solar panels for distant outposts that I don't want to bother hooking up to the main power grid, especially if we're going across oceans or deep into fighter territory. This is just a coal facility. And then this used to be my largest refining facility, where this was set up as a major steel and armaments factory, so producing all sorts of armaments here in addition to the military science, which we're shipping back to the starter base. And then we have some catalyzed ore refining here, where we are taking two different ore types. Some of it we are sorting directly into its constituent parts, and but in these facilities we are mixing the two together along with the catalyst in order to produce a pure iron output, so that we can focus this facility's production more on iron and steel, which we've been successful with. There are lots of different ways that you'll want to try balancing your resource outputs in AngelBob, and that is one of them. Again, any of these facilities is probably going to have associated wastewater treatment facilities and filtering facilities for processed waste from that. But let's not spend too much time on stuff you've already seen. Back here. One of the things that Bob's Mods adds is higher levels of turrets and all sorts of weapons, and additionally some of the logistics stuff. So you've got lots of stuff to do with those higher tier materials as well. And this is what I am calling the hub. This is a facility designed to meet my base material requirements for the foreseeable future. Here we have it set up to bring in all 6 forms of base ore, and we are going through all 5 levels of refining. Previously only had 3 levels of refining. This adds in previous level was flotation, and now we're adding leaching, where we are injecting acids into the refined material to further break them down in their constituent parts. And then we have thermal refining, which is a power intensive and resource intensive to build the facility's final process, but it is blessedly simple with a single input and a single output. So we go from having what I call tier 3 minerals, stuff like nickel, aluminum, and now we have tier 4 and 5 materials. So we have gold, cobalt, titanium, tungsten, and uranium being produced here now, which gives us everything that we need for the end of the game, basically. That is not to say that we are close to having anywhere near everything that we can do in AngelBob, but we've got the resources to start. So after all the ores are separated in their constituent parts, they are stored up here, and then they are sent on to the processing stage, or the refining stage, smelting stage. If any of these look intimidating, they are basically all nearly the most complicated processes you can set up. You can set up much simpler processes for all of these, but these more complicated ones make the process more and more efficient as you go along. So I'll walk down here, and we've got all our basic ore types. So we've got iron, copper, lead, tin, silicon, nickel, aluminum, zinc, silver, titanium, gold, tungsten, iron being turned into steel, and manganese here. And then we have to add cobalt in the end there because we haven't done that yet. Now we're shipping all the ingots up here and splitting them up into different processes for smelting, because this is where we can alloy different materials, and it's also where we can alloy with some of our materials that don't usually do something on their own, like manganese or nickel. We can mix that with, in particular, steel or iron to get higher outputs here. So going over, we've got 3 different mixes for iron that we can use. We've got copper, we've got tin, we've got, no, this is brass. Bronze, not brass, bronze. We've got lead solder, tin, tinned wire, silicon or monosilicon, silicon nitride. This is brass, aluminum, zinc, gunmetal, invar, more examples of alloys. This is silvered wire, titanium, gold, gold wire. This is tungsten production, and then we've got cobalt steel, and nitinol, which is one of our top tier materials. So this whole facility is designed to be relatively expandable. We can add more smelting, expand it out here. We can expand more casting in this direction, and we will add on more and more ore sorting facilities here. Actually, the main problem I'm running into right now is that as I brought this online, there is expandability in the filtering facility here. However, some of the basic water production and wastewater filtering is actually not quite up to the task, and also producing the oxygen in order to run the high power furnaces it's been a bit of a struggle. So that's one of the things I'll be addressing in the near future. Right on, so that is 115 hours and a half of Factorio AngelBob. Thanks for stopping by.